anything else you watched? Anything else? Now, we didn't do any reviews, and we're going to talk about Dynamite on the Experience, which will be out Sunday night. I'm going to tell everyone that right now.
Yes.
But have you watched
it? Next week at the Castle, they actually start putting everything back together. So this should be a temporary situation with our schedule. Obviously, I didn't watch all of Raw because I didn't have 16 days to devote to one television program with all this that's going on. But I did watch the first segment because that flew by with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. And our boy Austin Theory is getting involved in this. And I'm hesitating. I will hold my thoughts and see how it all turns out. But 3 hours of national television. I read the recap. I tried to zip through some of it. And the only thing that I could stomach watching was the only two real stars they had on the program is the first segment, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. And they're headed to SummerSlam. And it's going to be Lesnar and Reigns again because those are the only two money-drawn stars they've got now that Cody's hurt. And I got to be honest with you, Brock seems to be getting more comfortable doing promos. And part of it is because he knows he's over, and you can tell when he comes out, he doesn't give a shit. He's going to play around. He's going to do his thing. It's still going to be better than everybody else's, and he knows he's over. But he's not trying to memorize lines. He's not trying to be dramatic. He's just talking to Penn. He's talking like his smart-ass self. And you can tell the difference in AEW on TBS and WWE on USA. A lot of initials there. On AEW, just everybody gets to say shit for no reason, right? Jane Cargill just tells Tony, cut the shit, no reason. All the heels they've all got Tourette's and potty mouth. Brock Lesnar, the biggest box office attraction in modern professional wrestling, says he's going to give somebody a shit kicking, and they bleep shit. The difference between the USA Network and did I ever tell you about the parameters we had on language from Sinclair Broadcasting's corporate aficionados? Did I ever tell you that, Brian?
I'm not sure.
Because when we first got started with having Ring of Honor television on Sinclair and their local stations, okay, this is not cable. These are broadcast television stations, so they are fully under the rules and regulations of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, that governs broadcast free over-the-air television. And so we know that these guys, they're used to working indie shows and cussing on the mic, and they used to Ring of Honor, you could cuss at live events. They were putting it on VHS, whatever. But we need to keep an eye on this because the last thing that we need to do as the new kid in the Sinclair family is to get heat with the TV stations. So obviously we knew we couldn't say shit. You can't say shit on broadcast TV. You can say it on cable now, depending on the cable network. But we knew shit was no good. Can't say goddamn. That ain't going to happen. You can get by every once in a while under the Sinclair auspices with an outraged son of a bitch, as long as it was in a kind of a good context instead of just being flippantly thrown out as part of fucky, fuckity, McFuck. Fuck was never a goddamn option. But ass. They had several different kinds of rules related to ass and ass-related comments. Brian, did you know that you can say on, at least in 2011, on the Sinclair Broadcasting television group, you could say, I'm going to kick your ass, and you could call somebody an ass, but you could not shove anything into anybody's ass. See the
I did not know that.
I'm making?
I did not know that.
That, and actually, I went over this in minute detail with Mark Davis, who was the head of production. I said, now, wait a minute. That's the thing. Nothing can go in the ass. You can kick somebody's ass and you can call somebody an ass, but you can't stick anything in anybody's ass. And that was the context in which we could use ass. So it was a whole thing. Nevertheless, Brock does his promo. They bleep shit and shit kicking, but he's out there. He looks like Klondike Brock, the cowboy hat and whole 9 yards. And then here comes Paul Heyman. He interrupts. And Brock started prodding Paul because Paul came out kind of slow, was going to get the people into his thing, and Brock started prodding him. I think because Brock had said something about, oh God, he learned in, I think they were in Texas. He learned in Texas, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered, and Roman Reigns is a hog. When Paul comes out, Brock says, speaking of hogs, I mean, now it's like Brock Lesnar now is the guy who knows all about wrestling psychology and is the witty promo master. Who would have ever thunk this? So Paul, as he does, backhandedly puts Brock over as having the advantage in the last man standing match over Roman Reigns, because Roman is the tack he's taken is that Roman is a great athlete and a great competitor, but Brock is an animal. And this is last man standing, hurting someone till they can't get up anymore. And Brock may have an advantage in that respect. But Paul's going to have Roman Reigns ready at SummerSlam to put Brock Lesnar down. And that's where I thought about this, because they just bleeped shit. And I went through the Sinclair rules on ass. Paul's finishing line was, he's going to have Roman Reigns stick his hand up your ass and pull your heart out through that hole. But they bleeped shit. So I don't know what the fuck to think anymore. But if you're in the Sinclair family, nothing in the ass. Have you noticed, Brad, they cannot what Paul Heyman if he doesn't want to be whatted, because he is so good. He doesn't have to pause. He doesn't take a break. He doesn't use a period. He keeps going with no natural break for them to jump in and do that until finally they've decided to just take the ride with him and listen to what he says.
Yeah, I mean,
so he's impervious there.
He's as skilled a talker as we've ever seen.
He has the most talented mouth that has ever been in wrestling. But anyway, so then, as Paul says that, here comes Theory, our boy formerly known as Austin, with his Money in the Bank briefcase. And he says now they're putting the thought in people's minds, okay, this little prick, one way or another, is going to come out. We don't know who's going to win, because whether it's Roman Reigns or whether it's Brock Lesnar, is this little prick going to cash in and steal the title from somebody? So there's a little intrigue there, but he's going to win the U.S. title back, according to him, at SummerSlam, and then put his foot on one chest or another and win the title. And then they showed the clip of Brock giving Theory the F5 off the top of the Elimination Chamber cage, and they went black on the bump. Do you remember that? It's where he was 25 feet in the air, but he gives him the spin for the F5, and then he just drops straight down to his feet on the ground. And they shot it, you could tell. So they had to black out the landing, like he landed and splattered into so many grease spots that, you can't show it on television. But that is the way they've set this up, where it's Reigns and Lesnar again. Yes, we've seen it. They're still the only money drawers, but this time Theory is going to be involved in some fashion. But then, okay, I'm buying this. You got Paul Heyman. He's the best fucking promo in wrestling. You got Brock Lesnar. He's the biggest box office attraction in wrestling. You got Theory. He's the future of the WWE. And then what happens? All of a sudden, Otis and little Gable, old Shorty, are at ringside, dressed to wrestle. They just appear, they walk up, and as Brock turns around to look at them, you never see Paul again. You never see Theory again. They just disappear. And they're feeding these two schlubs to Brock Lesnar because they don't want Brock to beat up Theory. Brock can't beat up Paul. That's against his fucking religion. Roman Reigns is not there to be beat up. So they want the people to see Brock beat somebody up. So they just wander Otis and Gable out there so Brock can beat them up. And At least Brock did it right. Gable tries to chop block him, and Otis tackles him, and Brock doesn't go down. He doesn't sell it. He laughs at him, beats up both of them, hits them both several times with the steel stairs, wears them out with a chair, belly to bellies Gable into the floor camera, and F5s Otis through a table. And as we mentioned, Paul and Theory are long gone, and now you've forgotten they were there. It made no sense, except it was so people could see Brock Lesnar engage in physicality with somebody. That's what they came for. But when you do that just for the sake of doing it, besides the fact that it's obvious and no surprise and doesn't make a lot of sense, you run the risk of people not leaving the segment with the thought subliminally that you wanted them to have, which is, okay, even if Roman or Brock settle this, Theory's going to screw something up some kind of way. What's going to happen? That would have been the thought if they'd have left it on the promo, and that directly ties into selling tickets and or pay-per-views for SummerSlam. But now you spent the last 3 minutes making them happy as clams, and they've glossed over the, oh, shit, we were ready to buy them. Oh, but look at Brock. He just beat those guys up. What's next? Take your mind off of it. That's why I don't like those type of things. But that was basically of 3 hours of Raw. If you wanted to see anything, that was what you ought to see. And the rest of it was all the people with names they picked out of fucking phone books somewhere.